Hi, this is David from Robotiq, and today I want to talk about our online configurator, which is a very powerful, very useful tool for technical qualification. So follow me as Kendra and I will do an overview of what we can do with our configurator.
Yep. All right. So we're going to present the Robotiq Palletizing Configurator, which is used as a simulator to to test projects, to test if a certain box type, box weight, box size will work. And it would also tell you with which model of palletizer and which UR robot it will work the best. So yeah, first of all, to get to the configurator itself, the best way, the fastest way is to use the main Robotiq website, robotiq.com. And then under the Solutions tab, you will see palletizing. And then just by scrolling down a little bit, you will see, will it fit in my factory, or does it fit in your factory? So this is where you can try the configurator. So that's the easiest way to, to get to the configurator or simulator. First of all, you'll notice that by default you are not logged in, and I strongly suggest that you do create an account for this, because this will allow you to save your projects and share them with your network, with your colleagues and customers. So I'm gonna log in.
Another benefit of the login tool is that it allows you to save every project you've ever worked on. So if you don't have the login, any link that is related to an old project will still exist, but this actually keeps it in a way that you have a whole portfolio of all of the projects you referred to, in the future.
So yeah, we can show that quickly. Actually, in that triple bar menu, you will find the dashboard. So this contains all of your projects that you have created in the past. So you'll notice that there's projects period, and there are also multi-recipe projects. So what we mean by a multi-recipe is a project, so a palletizer simulator that contains more than one type of box. So if, for example, you have a client that has one line, but that line makes 4, 5, 6 different types of boxes or products or SKUs, depending on how they call it, this will allow you to save all of those items and make sure they match or they work in that same configuration of the palletizer. So I guess we can start from scratch, Kendra, and create a new project. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new palletizing project. And before we get going, I just want to maybe do a quick overview of the screen, what we see here. So that triple bar menu will take you to your dashboard. The units can be changed from Universal System to Imperial, so it's up to you. Then you'll see the share button. So this is to easily export a link that can be seen or consulted by anybody you send it to, and then you'll find your login information. So that's for the top bar. On the left-hand side, you'll see pretty much the same menu, or almost the same menu that you'll see in the palletizing solutions software. So you have a menu to enter the box information, so basically dimensions and weight. Then you can enter the pallet information, so basically again dimensions, and then where the conveyor is and how it is placed or laid out per respect with the solution. And the pattern screen will take you to that tool where you can show or or I guess configure how the boxes are placed on the pallet. So we'll fill all those one by one. And at the bottom, for now, it's kind of grayed out, but you will eventually see the simulation results. So you will see which model fits this application, and you'll see some KPIs as well. KPIs in the sense of key performance indicators. So basically metrics, how many boxes per minute can this configuration do, and so on. All right, so should we get started? Anything you'd like to add for now, Kendra?
Just an important note, the top bar there also allows you to change the name. So if you want to keep track of all of your recipes and make it customizable for your customer, you could put in SKU 1, 2, 3, 4, or call it whatever you might call it, customer name and whatever describes that SKU that you're running. So that's perfect. Yeah, Chocolate Factory X, and then the type of box that you're running. Also, that the link now that is unique is created on the top. So the URL is now a link that is custom for this simulation. Now that you've logged in and created a true project, so that can be shared directly with the customer as well. That's another way to share. So that is just kind of a different thing I wanted to mention as well.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, I'm showing here right now that you can copy and paste that link in another browser or tab, and it will take you to that exact simulation. Perfect. All right, so yeah, let's go back to our main page here, Chocolate Factory. So the first menu is where you can enter the box dimensions. So I think we can stick to the default values for now, or just enter a mock value.
Yeah, if you put empirical, I have my go-to mock one. If you'd like, I can share that with you. So if you switch over to inches, that's how my brain works. Go ahead and put 12 inches for the length. Very good. So 12 inches there, 10 inches for the width. And then you could make the height 8, 9 inches, something like that.
All right.
And then if, the weight's a really good indicator that will lead to a different model of palletizer, right? So maybe we put in 30 pounds in anticipation of trying to, I take that back. Would you do 20 pounds, David? Then it'll show kind of both options.
Yep, perfect.
And then if you set label orientation, that's an important thing to show as well. So once he gets the weight entered, then the label can be set to a certain side. So in the food and beverage industry, pharmaceutical, we see the need for a label to be set on a certain side is very important. And that allows, when you build out your pattern, the arrow will indicate exactly where that label needs to go. So in this case, the side of the conveyor, it's coming down, it hits a label before it gets to the end stop. That's perfect.
Good.
So yeah, there's a button to accept that editable box. It seemed to not want to show that on David's screen, but that's perfect. And then if the palette, if we make it a 40 by 48 inches, I think it defaults to 47.99, something like that. So if we come in here, we can make a typical 48 by 40 inch palette. In this screen, you can also choose the left and right palette. So maybe select the left palette as well. If you're thinking worst, or I guess trying to analyze the full scope, most people use both palettes. So I try to always put left and right in there as well. I think that should be good for that, David. And then the conveyor, maybe just pop it open. We don't need to make any edits, but the conveyor will automatically default to the width of the box. So that's kind of the auto default. But again, if you want to rotate it 90 degrees or change the distance away from the palletizer, if you're trying to replicate exactly what the customer has, that's all possible in this screen. Look at that. That's a great indication of how it can be reoriented as you see fit for the project. Again, as you narrow in on all those details, you could certainly kind of go in there and really make it your own. I'd say for the initial step, leaving as the defaults is really a good way to go, at least when you're just doing that initial risk aversion.
Perfect.
Very good. And then if you look at the pattern, the next thing that we'll do is build out our palette pattern. So this is probably the most important and what helps customers really visualize how it could be their project. So if you want to walk through this, David, I think you probably know best about how all of these buttons work now, but essentially adding one box at a time is the default, right?
Yeah, exactly. So here, oops. Sorry, there's a little bit of a lag. Okay, so yeah, adding boxes. This button will let you add boxes. So then you can simply drag and drop it on the palette. The arrows will allow you to rotate it, right? So you want to show the label on a outward facing edge of the palette typically. So then I can simply go and click. If two boxes are overlapping, they will show as red. The system will not allow me to place it there. So I can simply go ahead and make the pattern. Now let's say I wanted to have a standard or regular gap between the boxes. Let me place this first one. So by default, the snapping is enabled, so it will automatically kind of try to stick to the edge of the existing boxes or the edge of the palette. But I can also add a gap. Let's say I want a, I don't know, half an inch gap in X and Y. Okay, so now it will always give me it will always snap to half an inch from the boxes that are already there. So that can be an interesting tool if you know you're gonna have gaps, or if you want some gaps. Now let me just select all and delete them because all right. So then I can, yeah, as I mentioned, put some boxes there. Another interesting thing to show is, oh, I'm gonna remove those gaps though. Another interesting thing is if you are planning on doing multi-pick, in the sense that if you're gonna place more than one box at a time, this is actually where you can set the systems to account for that, because it will have an impact in the cycle count, right? If the system grabs two boxes at a time, so this is where you can actually modify or change that here in the oops, I'm gonna go back to add. Okay, and then let's say that I'm planning on doing multi-pick. So let's say I'm gonna grab two boxes at a time there. So it will show like this as a kind of a group of two boxes. So you know that in the KPIs that we're gonna see later down the road, those boxes are gonna show as being picked two at a time. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put some of those.
Yeah, and a really important thing is you'll notice that the short side is connected to the other short side of that, right? So it's called short side leading. So that's how it's coming out of the labeler, and the two sides are both the short sides. If, for instance, to multi-pick, we need to have, maybe the length is too long, so picking two at a time doesn't seem reasonable. In that situation, you would go back to the box screen and switch the length and the width, and then it'll force those longer sides to be side by side. So, no, that's great, David. I think that's a great example of picking two boxes at a time, and then building out the second layer. So if you had alternating layers, for instance, you can go to the Create Pattern B, and a really cool new feature is the ability to copy your pattern A. And so then if you had to mirror it or rotate it, you could easily do that, in this area, which is awesome. We've been wanting this feature for a very long time. So, so then it could be interlocking, and you can kind of rotate as needed with these different tools. We don't need to go through all of them, but you'll notice as you kind of play around with it, you have the ability to select the whole thing, move the whole thing, rotate accordingly, instead of sitting there and doing each of the individual boxes. So often we see A-B rotation in the different patterns, but we also have the ability to do a pattern C. So say the last layer is like a partial layer, we can represent that in the tool as well. So let's just put in maybe six layers, and then we can show how that populates the alternate A-B. So you could always come in here and alternate A-B. I don't think we created a B pattern, so we can keep it for A for this representation, but very easy to kind of indicate that, and customers talk about that often as well. So Oh, you did put a B in there. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I did.
So,
Yeah.
very good.
We got
So then,
alternating AB. And maybe, yeah, just one last quick thing regarding the patterns. Just some interesting features. When you select all, you have the ability, now the palette size won't allow me for now, but you have the ability to center everything on the palette. So if there was some gaps around it, it would center everything. And you also have the ability to expand or to add a gap in every boxes at a time, so at one time. So that could be an interesting tool as well.
very
All
good.
right, so we have our layers. So we notice that we can create up to 3 patterns, which is sufficient in most cases. On the actual pelletizing solution, the real one, you have the ability to create as many patterns as you want. But what we typically see is 2, alternation of A and B, and sometimes a C1 for a last layer that would have less boxes, for example. All right, so the
Very
next step,
good.
once all of those informations were entered, box, palette, pattern, then we can go ahead and hit simulate.
And this is really the moment of truth. It's going to pick the best model that it sees to represent, what information you put in. So if you recall, we put in a 20-pound box, which you think, oh, that fits the, the 10, the UR10. But in this case, we're picking 2 at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, it defaults to our PE20 model, which then is represented very well here. So to David's point there, it shows exactly all of that KPI information. What's really impressive is you see the output of like 16.8 boxes a minute. So in the past, with limitations of payload, we were not able to really exceed, 10 cases a minute, 11 cases a minute. Now, with the ability to pick multiple cases at a time, we're now in that upper ranges of 15, 20 a minute in different instances. And that's really opened the door to a lot of situations where we could not provide a solution in the past. We now have the ability. So, this is a great tool to use to represent possibilities with customers. The hardest part is really getting that information from them to then generate this. So I often give them an example of one that could be used, but ultimately that link now at the top is a live link that can be shared accordingly with your customer. And you could do this over and over again for all of the different SKUs. Or as David mentioned, the multi-recipe feature is a good way to organize if you know you have multiple SKUs on one line.
Mm-hmm. And what you'll see here is the palletizer that was chosen. It doesn't mean this is the only one that will fit, but it's probably the most efficient one that has the best cycle time for this kind of application. You will also see the robot type and the end effector. Now this one can be a little bit hard to grasp at first sight if you don't know our family of grippers. But basically, PowerPick is the standard vacuum gripper that Robotiq has designed for a UR20. Then it says small bracket. So we have to know that there's 2 configurations with smaller brackets and bigger brackets depending on box sizes. Now both brackets will come with a PowerPick kit. So all you need to know basically is that for this order or for this project, you would need a PowerPick 20, and then the small bracket and rectangular or square configuration are simply just how you assemble it, but the PowerPick kit itself will include all of those configurations.
Great point, David. And the more you analyze, you might see that might not be the best gripper, right? The better gripper for a 20-pound case, you might not trust that 2 vacuum cups is enough to pick a single box, or in your configuration. So there's another hamburger menu near that KPI name there that you can actually take it to the next level. And say you wanted to look at a different model, as David mentioned, it just kind of defaults to what is best for throughput. But in this section, you can go ahead and create, you could select the UR30 to generate an AX30 model. You can indicate different end of arm tooling. So say you had a different name brand gripper off the shelf and you had the TCP information for that, you could go ahead and enter it. Or if you wanted to take a look at, what would this look like with a larger configuration of PowerPick as well? So a lot of different options in this advanced menu. And honestly, I'd say that, our coaches are really good at taking a deep dive into this. So if you get a simulation that it pops up and says it won't work, feel free to share the link with us. We're more than happy to figure out how we can get it to work, because we know all the ins and outs. And also, feel free to go into this advanced screen and start kind of nitpicking a few of the different items as well. You'll see kind of the subset of areas. Speed is very important as well. So say the customer desires a rate of 17 boxes per minute, and I know that we're at like 16.8. You could come in here and you could increase the default speed without the payload to, maybe 2 meters per second or 3, and now we will meet that rate. So kind of goes to show different ways in which we could meet the customer's needs, but understanding the speed settings as well. Everything defaults to 1 meter per second, which is that collaborative kind of guideline. So every simulation you do will result in that default unless you go and edit it. In general, the threshold honestly is about 2 or 3 meters per second, where it kind of stabilizes, and it can't get from point A to point B any faster than what 2 to 3 meters per second is. So to give you kind of a guideline on what you could enter into that. But now you can resimulate with those new settings, and then you'll notice some changes in the simulation as well. So it becomes kind of a live edit. Now we're meeting that rate. Definitely that the customer desired, and kind of the new link exists with those edits. No, that sounds good. And another piece of, I guess, what you see on the screen here in the bottom corner is, and it says AR. That is augmented reality.
Augmented reality, yep, right here. So it says to scan this UR code to see in augmented reality. So that's basically with your cell phone, right? So you can take your cell phone. I'm gonna do it on my end.
Very good. So yeah, if say you're at a customer and you want to go ahead and scan that, that's what will show up as default if you go to it on your phone as well. Then you can actually drop the palletizer into the space that you are in the factory. So if people want to visualize outside of the simulator tool, but bring it to reality, you just basically size it based on the ceiling. You kind of size it to the room, and then all of a sudden you can drop the palletizer into the space. One thing is it's just kind of fun. It's just kind of a fun tool to share with engineers and things if you're on site. And then secondly, you could take a screenshot of that in maybe the space in which it's potentially going to be deployed. And it really helps with those future conversations and being able to share that. So we use this as a tool. Again, it's just kind of one of those more advanced features that we offer within the simulator tool as well.
So I'm trying to show kind of what you can
very
get.
good.
It's gonna be blurred, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
So he dropped it into the space, so it's kind of
right
cool.
next to me. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. And I'd say the last thing kind of to share, if you want to learn more about this, we do have an advanced training that will be upcoming, and we can certainly reference that. And that will go over a lot more of the details. So if you go to that hamburger menu again, David, up in the left, the more advanced training is going to cover importing and exporting. So say you have access to TOPS program or CAPE program, you have the ability to import. So we'll go into more detail with that. We will also cover how to export for an actual program. So now we have the ability to take a simulation and export it as a URP, which is a program for the UR. So we'll have the ability to show that as well in this advanced programming section. And then we'll go into more details in that about the multi-pick capability, or multi-recipe rather, information as well. So we'll be sharing more. David and I are always available for more training and more time as needed, but hopefully that gives you a good overview today about what the palletizer simulator has to offer with Robotiq and how it can be used as a sales tool for you in the field. So thank you all for your time. Thank you, David, for taking time to go through this with me, and we'll hopefully talk to all of you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it's going to be helpful for your future qualifications. Now keep in mind that you can access the online configurator at robotiq.com, that you can contact our coaches at coach@robotiq.com, and that you can follow this link to book an online training anytime. Thanks for watching.